Exodus 23:1 says, "Thou shalt not raise a false report. Put not thine hand with the wicked to be an unrighteous witness." We discussed the commandment to not put thine hand with the wicked to be an unrighteous witness in our previous About Jesus devotional. And we used the wicked Supreme Court justices who established Roe V. Wade as law in 1973, resulting in the murder of more than 64 million unborn children before it was overturned. And we mentioned the perversion of the 14th Amendment by these wicked activist judges. But few seem to know just how perverted the Roe v. Wade decision actually was. So we want to continue our discussion. Listen to the section of the 14th Amendment referred to as the Due Process Clause, and see if you can find a right to abortion in these words. I quote, "Nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law," end quote. Can you believe that? In the very sentence of law that says that every person has a right to life and it can't be deprived of that right to life without due process of the law. That's the very sentence that was completely perverted to legalize the killing of unborn persons in the womb. The very pro-abortion NBC News Chicago and Associated Press published an explanation and answered the question, what did the 14th Amendment have to do with Roe v. Wade? The report said, quote, "Writing for the majority opinion in Roe v. Wade, Justice Harry Blackmun said that the court held a woman's right to an abortion was implicit in the right to privacy protected under the 14th Amendment," end quote. I hope you're hearing this clearly. They ignore the words forbidding the killing of the person in the womb. They ignore the statement saying that it's forbidden to deprive any person of life without due process of law. And they ignore the fact that this whole amendment is about states and not individual mothers who are carrying a person in their womb. And without any basis or legal precedent, these pervert judges referred to the little person in the womb being called as only the potential of human life in their writings. Roe v. Wade was one of the most egregious examples of 7 reprobate, unjust judges, and each of them are an example of the unrighteous witness being spoken of by the Lord in Exodus 23:1. Jesus faced lying, unrighteous witnesses like those Supreme Court justices at his trial, and the supreme leaders in Israel at the time were the high priest, the Pharisee and Sadducee leaders, and the Sanhedrin council, basically the Supreme Court of that day. And Matthew tells us in Matthew 26:59 and 60, "Now the chief priests and elders and all the council sought false witness against Jesus to put him to death, but found none. Yea, though many false witnesses came, yet they found they none. At the last came 2 false witnesses." But Mark 14:56 tells us, "For many bare false witness against him, but their witness agreed not together." And like Roe v. Wade, the false witnesses and perversion of the law meant nothing to the perverted reprobate leaders at the trial of Jesus. The innocent Jesus was crucified on a cross in 30 AD under the influence of the same satanic spirit the unrighteous witnesses on the U.S. Supreme Court declared a death penalty for 65 million plus unborn persons in the womb. Of course, many more examples of innocent people suffering at the hands of unrighteous witnesses could be given, and we could probably provide one every week right up to the rapture with no difficulty. But as we pointed out many times, the only person we can control is the one that we see in the mirror. And you can only really do what you can when you surrender to the one who died on the cross and then sent his Spirit and his word for us to live by. John 14:23, Jesus answered and said unto him, "If a man love me, he will keep my words, and my Father will love him, and we will come unto him and make our abode with him."